Okay, let's see. Okay. All right.
Hi, Di. I see you.
Hey. Hi. You see me? I see you. I hear you. Do you hear me?
I love that girl green. Is that teal?
No, it's actually like a Kelly, not even a Kelly green. I don't even know what kind of green it is. I just know that I liked it, so I got it.
It looks great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So Taryn says he is recording now. So anything you say is being recorded. Yeah, you better be careful. But going forward, what you say is being recorded.
Very good. So hi, how are you two?
Good. How are you doing? When was the last time we talked?
Been a while. It's been a while. I mean, I think it was before election season.
Oh.
So that's been a while.
Oh, that has been a while. Yes. Yeah. Oh, we had an election season. Good. Oh my goodness. I hardly even noticed because they were so little on TV about it
I know.
Right.
That was quite a time though, wasn't it?
Yeah. Did you see that though? That on election day, there was a blood moon, a lunar eclipse. Did you see that?
Oh, yes. Yes. We kept watching for it, and quite honestly, we were watching, and then of course, what did we do at the time that it was there? I don't think we did much, so we actually missed it, but we knew it was coming. So I don't know what happened to us.
Yeah. So if you're into astrology, lunar eclipses are supposed to be like a new beginning, the end of something, the beginning of something. They're supposed to be like a reset. So I don't know if that means anything.
Good. That's good. Maybe it affected the election. I mean, that certainly didn't go the way everybody planned, you know. So
no, it didn't, did it? Very interesting, because everybody's like, Biden's so unpopular. He's gonna get cream, but he really didn't. So here's the question. So are we going to talk about politics for a minute? Do we even want to talk about that, or?
Well, it's up to you if you want to talk some, but you know what? I always seem to talk a lot. So I thought if you want to say something about that's great. But I also wanted to ask you guys, I have been reading a lot because it's happening so much. I've been reading a lot about the cloud.
The cloud?
And you know me, I read Wired, I read all these different publications.
Yeah.
And right now the cloud is just being talked about so much. And I read something that actually intertwines a lot with politics. It's the subject of all of these multimillionaires are wanting to go on the cloud as soon as possible because they want to start their own community on the cloud, because they're thinking that if they start this community for themselves, they can start one where it'll be a world where they don't have to pay taxes to help the rest of us.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yes. This is what I've been reading. And it's all these brains from San Francisco who have made a ton of money on their technical products, whatever they've seemed to be addressing. And they're basically just saying that, and this I totally agree with. They're talking about how tech has created a whole new paradigm for life. And why shouldn't they escape to where they do the best? And that's tech. And they said, we got to start to realize that technology has totally changed our way of life. And who knew it would happen, that these guys in garages would create things that would totally and completely leave so much of our life behind, would leave so many people behind, and would create so much wealth for many people. And what they're, to hell with these dummies like me, who are not into it so much. And we should be in a certain lump of people who are not tech savvy. And so what? And you dummy, you should get the dregs. And those of us who are really tech savvy, who've made so much money at it, we should have our own world. And this is a world where we don't have to give back, because we're so smart.
Is
And
it so-
why should we have to give back and support people who aren't us?
So let me just
So
make sure I understand this. And so what you're sort of saying is that and so this sounds like sort of an Elon Musk kind of thing or whatever. But so what you're saying is these tech titans are coming in and saying they do, is it like a virtual world? They want, I mean, it sounds like they want to create like something that's across borders that pull people together from all over the world. So they create this virtual country, for lack of a better term.
Proud. They are looking forward to being in a virtual reality where they can establish a community of them and not have to pay taxes in this world.
So that sounds like that's kind of what you're kind of getting at, is not paying taxes seems to be their big thing. They want to create this sort of world, but it sounds like, on one side, they want to create this world where everybody's in this virtual world, but it doesn't sound like it's a free world. I mean, is it like
Their free world.
their world?
They want to create a community that only the people who have made this kind of money can participate in. It's a closed community.
Right. So it's now, first of all, wealth clubs are nothing new, right? I mean, we for just the dawn of time, we've had wealth clubs. There's a country club over on North Druid Hills.
Right.
There's the what's the Piedmont Driving Club. So wealthy clubs, are nothing new, right? I think that I think I know a little bit what you're talking about. And I'm a big techie. I'm a huge mega geek. You know that, right? Techie. Let's go to Georgia Tech.
We can talk about this.
Yeah. So but so it's and I know a little bit what you're talking about. So there's two sides to this. One. Now the taxes thing is a totally different thing. I know what they're trying to talk about. So setting up a place online for where rich people can commune, that's not much different than setting up a country club where they could go in, and there's been websites like this before. Now, first of all, you should probably know that a lot of these exclusive websites do not fare well. There used to be a website called, I forgot what it was called, and it doesn't exist anymore because that shows you how important it was. But basically, it was just for beautiful people. And you would submit your application, and the other people on there decided if you were attractive enough to get in. And
Really?
so, it was. It was. Did you ever hear of it?
Yeah, I think you told me.
Yeah. Now this was like years ago. So these type of exclusive online properties have come up and down before. So if millionaires wanted to set up a virtual country club where you had to have a certain amount of money to get in, and you guys could just sit around and talk about smoke your virtual pipes and drink your virtual brandies and talk about the world, that's the same thing as the Piedmont Driving Club. That's just a virtual version of that. But it sounds like what you're wanting, that they want to create some sort of almost alternate country.
Alternate reality. Yes.
Yeah. Like a metaverse kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Where they're in a world that they create where that is their world. So this is where they live.
So Did you ever read the book or see the movie Ready Player One?
No.
Have you heard of it? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Okay. It was a real popular, I read the book. It's a real popular book 5 or 6, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And they made Spielberg made a movie out of it. The movie was different than the book. But at the end of the day, the book was basically about what you're talking about. It's set in a not too distant future where the whole world has gone to crap. But the only thing that people have is this virtual world. And that's where everybody lives. People basically spend they live in these crappy trailers that are stacked on top of each other. And, and only a few rich people in the world run this. It's called the Oasis. Is what it's called in Ready Player One. And so, but the whole story is about, it's set in this dystopian future. Of course, it's about a group of kids who get involved in this. I don't want to spoil it for you, but at the end of the day, one of the things they discover at the end of the day is that, we still actually need reality. One of the joke lines from Reality is like, reality's good. It's one of the few places, the only place you can get a decent meal, or that's one of the funny lines from there. So a lot of these ideas of going to these virtual spaces have been explored by science fiction, stuff like that, and they never ever bode well. But I know what you're talking about with this sort of rich, internet country.
It's like the Peter Thiels of the world. And you hear, and I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he's so wealthy, he gives massive amounts of money to, say, the Republican Party.
Yeah, he's the PayPal guy. Yeah.
Yes, he is. And ex-PayPal, he and Elon Musk worked on it together. Yeah. And he has so much money, he contributes massively to Republican campaigns during elections and throughout. He gives just an unbelievable amount of money to them because he has an unbelievable amount of money. And this is what many of them do. But
there's also this other side. They're that wealthy class, but there's also the Bill Gates wealthy class who still and he talks about giving their money away, giving back into society. This is a sort of exclusivism or elitism, kind of at its a digital elitism, kind of is what they're talking about. But there's not, right now, I mean, there'll be nothing stopping them from setting up their own company and, letting people get in there. But the real question is, somewhere along the way, how are they not going to pay taxes? Are they going to have to all move to an island somewhere? They're going to have to exist physically somewhere, still.
Yeah. And that's kind of what they want to do in the future. They want that to represent living somewhere else, in a place where they never pay taxes for the millions that they make. Right. And it's like, why do you think you are so special?
Right, that's the elitism part of it. Yeah, they need to read Ready Player One. I need to send them a copy of that. They probably have read it.
Right. And their answer is always, well, we employ people.
Right.
Well, and our shareholders are happy. And you talk about the employment angle, how you employ people, and I don't see how they're usually screwing employment.
Exactly.
That's how I see it.
That's what this kind of gets down to.
People are right; they're being used and spit out.
So that kind of circles back to the election. This is maybe a good sort of entry point for that. Is that so? From my perspective, throwing away all the social issues and abortion or whatever, at the end of the day, basically we have a group of people who think that there should a few of the resources in society should be most of the resources in society should be with just a few people. That we should have this sort of trickle, and then they trickle down what the masses need. That's the structure of society they have. That's sort of they maybe they want to script their little place here, but whatever they do it, their excuse is that we are sort of like a nobility, sort of a modern economic nobility class, that we don't have to play by the same rules as everybody else because we're making jobs, we're providing for all of you, and that they trickle down to us what we need. That is basically the core philosophy, don't you think so?
Right.
It doesn't work. Yeah. That is basically what Republicans and conservatives kind of have. And that's the core of it. They wrap it up in religion, and they say we're against gay marriage, and they do all this stuff to get poor people to vote for them. But at the end of the day, that's their philosophy. Is that the way you perceive it?
Yeah, it definitely is. And the fact is, they keep us at incomes that are bare minimums for most people, which means that these people have to continue to work for them.
Good job.
Because it's so minimum, they can't stop working.
Right.
Which keeps them as indentured servants, really.
Yeah.
Because, and I have friends who say, well, if they want to get ahead, then they have to keep working and go to college.
No.
And it's like, on what? And many of these low wage jobs are women, and many of these women doing these low wage jobs have a family. Now tell me, how are they going to go to college? How are they going to get money to do that? And how are they going to pay for childcare?
Right.
So,
well, then here. So then this is where they bring in the thing they love to pout their chest about is like personal responsibility. You need to take personal. That's one of their favorite terms. Like, if you work hard and do what's right, you'll get ahead, which is BS, and so, but that's sort of they talk about the great resignation. I think, and the point I'm sort of getting at here is what I think affected the election. They're started to saying that a lot of what changed this election was Gen Z, young people, and they're not buying this. We sometimes say that they're lazy, but maybe they're not so crazy after all. Maybe they're like, we all worked. Oh, let's go to work. Let's go to college. I remember working our 80 hours a week at my first jobs, because that's what you were supposed to do. And they're kind of like, yeah, that's BS. We're not going to do that. And we've been calling them like lazy and all that, but maybe they're on to something. And then so they're the ones who've been, a lot of people who say have shifted this election. They got out in droves to vote for people, and they say that might have been the big, because they didn't show up in the polls like everybody thought they were going to.
Right. Yes, they made a big difference, and women came out.
And women, because I think a lot of people realized,
in droves, and if people didn't want to start acknowledging that, they had their heads in the sand, because more women actually registered to vote than ever before in history. That should have told them something, and honestly, a lot of states decided they were going to stop talking about women's health and women's choices. They decided they better not even talk about it, because they knew that the women were going to come out in droves, which they did. And in fact, on exit polls, two things showed up that people were concerned about. One, the two top things, one was abortion and women's rights, reproductive rights. The second thing was the economy. Those were the two things that everybody voted on. So women's rights, women's health, reproductive rights was top on the list.
So I'm going to ask you now, would you mind speaking since you're a woman, you're the only woman here in this room, in this virtual room. So you could speak for all women. Do you mind speaking for all womanhood right now?
Sure. For all women.
Oh, so there's this theory that a lot of women who went into the polls, however they said they were going to vote, they voted more for women's rights, whoever the candidates were for that, which tend to be, Democrat candidates. And they were like, well, I am not, and so they said they were going to maybe vote one way to their husbands or whatever. But when they got in there and shut that window, do you think they voted? Do you think that what might have happened also?
Really?
Oh, yeah. Women, the women I know around the country were furious.
Really?
We are furious about that. Just furious, because it wasn't just about abortion rights. These places like Planned Parenthood, they only do like 5% of their business in abortions.
Right.
No, the rest of that is helping women buy birth control.
Right.
And giving women checkups. So this is important to our health. And for all of these other people to assume that all they do is abortions is dead wrong. So for us to have our health rights and our reproductive rights taken away from us, that is just wrong.
Right.
And it affects our lives so much. So Planned Parenthood, look, when I needed some health care that I didn't have insurance and I couldn't afford, you know where I went? Planned Parenthood.
It's really?
Was it, yes. Was it for an abortion? No, it was for birth control pills.
Right.
They gave me a total checkup, and then they prescribed birth control pills so I could get them. And the price was a fraction of what it would have cost me through regular insurance.
Right.
So they are for so many reasons, and so many Planned Parenthoods had to close because the states forced them to.
Right.
Like Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona shut down all women's reproductive rights, closed the clinics, closed the Planned Parenthoods.
Right.
And they did it overnight.
Right.
And the women were stunned. So all the women started, fortunately, they're next door to California. So all the women started going to California. This happened overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Women were stunned. And man, were they mad. So this was a real issue for us. And the next step in the process for the people who wanted to shut all this stuff down, and this is coming up, just wait, this is coming up, because this is the next thing these states want to do, these anti-women's health, reproductive health. They want to make it, if their state is not allowing abortion, they want to make it so that women in the state cannot travel.
Right.
out of-
How are they going to enforce that? Right. Yeah.
How
How
do they
are
do
they
that?
going to, I mean,
Are enough. There are a lot of agencies working on this, a lot of states working on this now, because this is so horrible that these places will not even allow a woman to go get one in another state. First off, people who know them can rat on them. Second off, there are so many cameras now where
right.
they could do cars, drive, license plate.
Well,
And-
and also a lot of the apps you have on your phone track you. You know, that's the. In
That's
fact,
phone
the
tracking.
FTC just recently sued a company
Right.
called Kachava, which I've used them before for my clients. That the tracking information there was they were able to sell data that actually told where people were going, and you could see people went to Planned
Right.
Parenthood or clinics like that, and they
Right.
could trace them back to the person. They weren't supposed to be able to do that, but they hadn't set it up that way, and they ended up selling that data, or mining it or whatever.
Yes, and there will be plenty of people who will be happy to do that for this.
Right.
Happy to do it.
All
and
right.
who are all anti-reproductive health.
So let me tell you how
So,
you trip up.
this is-
So here's the way you can trip up one of these people. I've ran into this. I'd love to get your reaction to this. How do you? So I know some people, some women who are very anti-abortion. They say that's their driving
Right.
factor. You've heard about these people. There's one
Exactly.
issue. It's all about abortion. Abortion is murder. You're killing babies. I've done the research. I know what it is. And they're like, yes, so this is an important issue. This is all I care about. I don't care if you run the Capitol, if you ransack the Capitol or whatever. This is all that matters to. So then I asked this next question. I say, so you must be a huge Bill Clinton fan. And then crickets, because, and then I said, well, of course, under Bill Clinton, the abortion rate took the greatest drop it has in modern history. And they're like, no, it didn't. I said, and then I'm like, if you were such an abortion was important, you think you would have known this, right? And they're like, oh, but finally they end up looking up. Now, however they want to, they tried to do it, Heritage Foundation, you can't deny that the moment Bill Clinton took office, the abortion rate dropped down. And you want to know why? Because he signed the Family Leave Act. George H. Bush vetoed the Family Leave Act twice, where a woman could not take a leave to have a baby. She had to take her sick time or a vacation time. So now we still don't have a paid Family Leave Act here. But Clinton, one of his first day in offices after H. Bush had vetoed it twice, signed it, and they say that allowed women to not, they didn't have to get abortions anymore. They could actually take the family leave.
Right.
They didn't feel so much pressure. And so then when I asked these abortion people like that, so you must be huge, Bill. They get all and then I said, then you would think if you were so concerned about abortion, you would have known that, because they're not really concerned about abortion. They're concerned about their tribe. They really aren't about it. If they really were concerned about abortion, they would be all for the Family Leave Act, but they're not.
Right. Let me tell you something. If you were really concerned about abortion, you would give out free birth control.
Right.
There
Now, can you explain this to me? What is we're gay, so we don't have to worry about birth control.
Right.
But what is the deal about birth control, man? Why does everybody get all bent out of shape about that?
No, because that's another thing the Supreme Court wants to start regulating.
Well, what about
What?
condoms are the same?
What about condoms and birth? What do they have against? I know this kind of gets Catholic Church was, but why does the government? What is their position? How do they legally justify it?
No, you're forgetting that we have now an unbelievably strong religious presence now in our country that's getting pretty much anything it wants. And their goal is to eliminate sex as well. among gays.
That's why they don't like gay people.
among-
Okay, that explains it.
Yeah, we don't
among gays, among married people. I mean, their whole goal and what you have to do, what if they want to do is get rid of any sex going on between unmarried people and gays. And to do that, they feel their first steps are getting rid of abortion.
Why do they want
Because
to get rid of sex? What do they have against sex?
Yeah.
What's their?
They're not getting anything.
They're not.
They're fundamentalist Christians. They don't believe that you know that you should be having sex unless you're married.
It's fine.
And you know something? No, it's true. And you know something? The Supreme Court is now going to revisit two things. They want to be able to regulate birth control, even in marriage. Who gets it? And they want to start regulating what is happening in marriage, because that will lead them, if they regulate that, they'll be able to regulate gay behavior.
Right. That's what we're that is a lot of the talk in the gay community. Yeah, this chain reaction. Abortion is just the first, set of a chain reaction there. And Clarence Thomas he has been pretty open about it. Like, we need to revisit gay marriage and the privacy.
Yes, they
clause.
are. But first they're going to take steps to get there.
Right.
And there's steps. They have outlined step by step. And the end result will basically be that gay marriage and gay sex will go away. Because that's
gonna go. No, I know you said they can make it go away, but it's been around even. So just so I don't know if you know this about me, but I did grow up in a very strict independent Baptist church. Do you know what that is? An independent Baptist church? An independent Baptist church is a church that left the Southern Baptists because they were too liberal, The Southern Baptists were too liberal. So this group broke away, and that's the church I grew up in. And they spent a lot of time telling us about not having sex and not fornicating, and God forbid being gay, and they preached a lot. And they even talked about, I had one pastor who talked about, there were some things they did in the Dark Ages that maybe we should revisit, like some of the punishments that were pretty this was a guy preaching this like in this past 50 years, this kind of stuff, that we need to rethink some of this stuff. And I'm like, but I never could understand. And I finally got old enough to ask these questions. I was kind of like the heretic, like, so what's the scriptures you got? I mean, what is the whole, there's this thing about feeding the hungry. I read that, it's pretty straightforward, but why are you guys so against? What is the big deal? And I just can't help but feel it's their own personal hang-ups. Yeah, I feel like in a lot of ways, it's their own personal hang-ups.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there are churches, like I have a friend, she is very much a churchgoer, and she quotes the Bible, but she is very much into reality. And she believes that God loves everyone. And she believes that it is not our right on earth to judge, because God will do what he wants to do when someone dies.
Right.
And so we talk about gays, and she's like, you know what? I accept them because God accepts them. And she belongs to a very conservative church, but she's like, what business is it of mine? I leave it up to God.
Right.
So does her church, though? Does her church, but here's the thing. I used to go to a conservative church, even before I was coming out. And I kind of discovered, if you go to these churches, I quit going to some of them, because I felt, in a way, if they're preaching some things I don't agree with, then I shouldn't go more. I'm condoning it, by going there. I mean, so that's one reason why I stopped going, because I just couldn't, I knew it was being gay. I have gay friends who still go to church. I'm like, how do you kind of work that out, man? Because
exactly. Well, right now you have to remember that Trump really cozied up to the fundamentalist Christians because he wanted their vote.
Yeah.
And that's how it works.
So did Hitler, by the way. Hitler cozied up to the church, and that's how he got.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
A little history there.
Yes, it was the way he controlled people. Because remember, his biggest thing was making sure he was controlling people.
Right.
And if he couldn't control somebody like those in his military rank, if he felt like they stepped out of line, guess what? They were shot.
Right.
And so control was his thing. And so the fundamentalist Christians, and that's what I'm going to call them, they want to control.
So maybe
And
it's all about control. Maybe that's about women. It's like, so birth control is a way for you to control women. I mean, I know it sounds kind of like thing, but if women are pregnant, then you can control them. You know, it's a control mechanism. Is that kind of
right?
Goes down to?
Right. Right. And if their abortion law does not include saving the life of the mother, then the baby has the rights in that particular relationship. And remember that. And in Kentucky, what they were trying to do, I think it was Kentucky, they were trying to outlaw all abortion rights.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
And there are states, I think it might have been Kentucky, but there were other states that said, there was another one that said, if a baby goes through abortion and shows any signs of life, the doctors had to drop anything and save that baby somehow.
Right.
If it showed any signs of life. So, but again, how can you do that to a woman?
Right, exactly. So did you ever read the Handmaid's Tale books?
Oh, all the women have.
Yeah, I've read it. I've never watched. I know there's a series on Hulu. I've never watched the show. Have you watched the show?
I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it.
I know. I read the books. I know. I read the books, and I know this year I read this thing online where they were like, in the past, like the Handmaid's Tale Halloween costumes were real popular. People were saying this year, like, they're abandoning those because they're too close to reality.
No,
They kind of fell out of fashion because people were like, yeah, this is a little too close to home right now, because it's actually could be happening. So
once a woman is not able to control her body when she's pregnant, that is a scary thing. That is terrifying.
And this is not about it's not about murder, or it's not about a baby's life. It's more about not about the government telling you what you can do with your body. This is really the government. It's not about whether it's debate, and we can never answer that question because we don't know how life begins. We don't know how life ends. We do pay a lot of money to kill pregnant women in wars and seem to be okay with that. But we don't. But it's one of those things where it's not the question. That's the thing. These other people I've talked to, like, well, don't you think abortion is murder? I'm like, this is not what this question's about. This question is about government telling you what to think about it, and then
who's in control?
Right.
It's like, how can you feel that? What gives you the right to control a woman to the point where you would let her die to take this creature that we don't know? We have no clue what they would be, and take that over a woman's life. And the reality is, it's a political concept because you all are working through all of these rights through your government.
Right.
And my premise too is that, remember the 10-year-old who had to go to a different state to get an abortion? A 10-year-old girl would have been forced to have that baby. And she was pregnant. Here's my thing. You can't tell me that a rich congressperson, who found out that his, say, 14-year-old got pregnant by an illegal alien who came into the country, you cannot tell me that they would have figured out real fast where to get an abortion.
Oh yeah, I think I know. That's Herschel Walker, right? Yeah, Herschel Walker. Yeah, I think Herschel Walker is that person.
We got another. How in the world did that man get as many votes? How in the world?
Scary.
Who are we?
Scary. I mean, I do. So, do you have any election predictions about him winning the runoff?
Come on, I was so shocked by that first election. Put it this way, every Republican will come out and vote for him.
Do you think they will?
Oh, yes, because Republicans always vote.
Right. Well, they do,
I-
and Republicans do
because I-
favor Trump. Here's the only thing I was curious. I was talking to a friend about it. Is like a lot of Republicans did not vote for him. You know that Brian Kemp got all these votes, but Herschel Walker did not. His votes did not match up to Brian Kemp. So they were calling ballot skippers. Is
Look
what.
what happened. But look what happened.
Yeah, but he still got a lot of votes. Yeah, right. Brian, but
They tied. They should have never even tied. Herschel Walker is a friggin' idiot. But
I'm a Georgia
he's
Tech
not-
graduate, so I'm not gonna, he's a Georgia graduate, so we're natural enemies anyway. So, but
right, but look at his intellect. Seriously, come on. First he said what? He had 3 children, and those were, by heaven only knows so many women, and lied about it. And then the next thing we know, he said, well, I have another one.
right. Oh yeah, I
You
forgot
know,
about that
but
one. Oh
I
yeah.
didn't think that one was
Oh,
worth
yeah, there's
mentioning.
another one.
Yeah,
And then,
that one.
you know,
Well,
then he
that's.
says he has another one.
I think he
So-
personifies this double standard you're talking about. That him and his class of people, they can do what they want to do, but they have to have these rules to control the masses. But they don't apply to him and his group, and that gets back to the original philosophy of the. And it's funny because a lot of the Republican people, a lot of Republican sheep, I'm going to call them for lack of a term, they follow it. Like, right? They are leaders. We look up to them. They get different rights or whatever, and they're the ones who support it. They're the ones who make it happen. They're the ones who voted for him. But I kind of wonder though, if like now that it looks like this race in Georgia is not going to decide the power of the Senate. That's been done now, because Nevada.
Yes.
So the only
Yeah.
reason Republicans were going to go out and vote for him was for that reason. And now that doesn't matter, I wonder if these people who skipped over his name on the ballot, if they're just not going to be very motivated to go out and vote. I don't know. I'm asking you. What do you think?
We have to. We cannot not go out. We have
Oh
to
yeah.
go
Oh,
out.
we have got to. I know everybody I know is going to. Yeah.
Yeah, we have got to get people to the polls for this, because for them to have tied, that is just unbelievable considering who he was running against.
I know.
I mean, Herschel Walker got. the
Bad enough
same-
it's bad enough we got Marjorie Green Taylor to deal with her Jewish space lasers and stuff. But we've got now we got Herschel Derschel to deal with them. And he says some pretty crazy. I mean, I know everybody does gaffes and nobody's immune to gaffes or whatever. Biden's got his full, but Herschel has some real doozies of some gaffes, man, out there that are just like, what?
No, no. Oh my God, what a liar. What an idiot. I mean, how many things can be wrong with this man as far as going into our government?
Right.
But what they were looking for was a black man to be another black man running. That was pretty clear. And the fact that they can tell him exactly what to do.
Exactly. He would just be a puppet on a string.
He
Yeah.
would be a puppet. He would do what he's told. He would do everything. He would do what they say, and he would say what they want him to. I mean, he's just the perfect person. He has no brain. And I know that from people who have actually known him out in Texas, and even before he became so famous as a football player. I mean, I know people who knew him before, and he
Really?
had so many head injuries from playing.
Right.
He could hardly put together a coherent statement.
I know, and kind of wondering, I'm sort of scratching my head about why the Republicans put him as like their lead person. And I think they get a little, this might be another where they're undoing. I think they feel like they got these people so wrapped up voting for them, and that maybe sliding a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to get too over optimistic here, because you're right. A ridiculous amount of people voted for Herschel Walker. I'm still like, how did all these people vote for him? What were they thinking? But I do think I know what they were thinking. This is a question I'd love to ask you, because you said about fundamentalists, because I've always thought about this. I feel like a lot of and we were talking about this because we were with my family, and they're all sweet people, wonderful people, but conservative as hell. They're going to vote for Herschel. They're going to vote for Donald. They voted for Donald. And I'm like, but they're these religious fundamentalist people. They go to church. They believe in the Bible, but they're good people, and I'm trying to sort of decode.
I know.
How these people are that way. And so the only theory I could come up with is like they have somehow, think that they're in the church. It teaches you to go ye in all the world and preach the gospel. That's what Jesus said. That we're all
Right.
supposed to share the gospel.
Right.
I guess what
Right.
they feel like they're trying to do is they're like, well, I don't really want to do that myself. So I'm just going to vote for somebody in the government who will do it for me. It's like they're wanting to outsource evangelism to the government. Let me just
Right.
vote for these. And these people have figured out the scam. Oh, I just need to tell these Christians what they want to hear and they'll vote for us. And then we can still keep our elitist culture in place. And they think they're getting their, they're doing the religious thing. But I almost want to tell them, like, because, I consider myself a Christian. I'm like, nowhere in the Bible did Jesus say, go ye in all the world and vote for people that's going to pass laws to force people to follow the
Right.
gospel. He never really
Right.
said that, but that's kind of what they're doing, right? Is that what you think? Does that make any sense? Or
Absolutely. They are going after people who will pick up on what they're saying and go and run with it. Like President Trump did, and like a lot of guys out there who were ex-members of Trump's administration, they're doing it too. And I believe that the people who have been running in office who are doing that, who are taking that fundamentalist Christian religion and preaching it as they go around looking for votes, I think they're doing just that. I think they are taking those votes and running. And do they mean it? No. Do they believe it? No.
no.
I think they are doing it just for votes. And what they'll do is they'll get into Congress and they'll give them some payback, which is where it gets frightening, the payback.
Like the Supreme Court. They gave them the Supreme Court, basically.
Oh, that is total payback.
Yeah, that was their payback.
Total
Right? Yeah, they gave them the.
Those guys are so right wing, and so now we're finding out so religious in their interpretation, and it's scary. It's scary stuff. I mean, for them to even rescind Roe v. Wade when and they even talked about how no, we don't cancel precedent. Other Supreme Court judges have made those decisions and we don't dismantle them. They all said that. And lo and behold, one of the first things they do is dismantle Roe v. Wade. And now they've said they want to dismantle these other things. So they lied. Each one of them lied when they were trying to get on the court.
Right. But
they all had that.
And they have the double standard, they didn't put Marlick Garland in. Was it and but then they ran Amy, what's her name, through like in record break time,
Oh, yeah. Well, in just a matter of weeks, they
right.
put her in there. They didn't even vet her, really.
Right.
They didn't, and yet every one of those two was asked, are you going to rescind Roe v. Wade? And they all said no. So they lied about that too. These
right.
are lies.
So I'm gathering for you from speaking for all women that women are just a little pissed off right now.
We are very pissed off, and we showed how much.
Yeah.
At the ballot box.
Yeah,
we
definitely.
Showed how much we voted against these states who wanted to enshrine and say. A lot of these states wanted to put in the state constitutions that abortions are outlawed, period. No abortions. No abortion is legal. That includes a woman who's going to die.
Right.
If the baby's removed.
Well, and then it had all these downstream effects, like you said, of not getting health care, not getting a birth control, right. Not getting all of a sudden, and a lot of women who maybe didn't know how they felt about abortion, they didn't, these other, tentacles that was kind of coming out of this was like, yeah, but that's where this is going. Handmaid's Tale, coming down the.
Exactly. So it's, it's one of those things. And here's the other thing. The states that have said abortion is illegal, even in cases where the mother is affected or the baby will not be able to survive outside the womb. Some of these states have done that. They've said in case of difficulty for the woman, it's going to be dangerous for her, and if it's going to be dangerous for the baby, if the baby's going to die upon being born. They have said that. Those are their exceptions. Well, guess what? Because the doctors now have to answer to that, guess what? They're not doing those abortions.
Right. This is a
So,
real common
right.
practice of making the law kind of bogus. And that's what the Don't Say Gay law in Florida did. Basically, I actually had an attorney friend of mine sat down and looked at this law, and he was like, this is classic legal wrangling where they write a law that they sound like, we don't like. I had a gay friend who hadn't read it. It's like, well, I don't think third graders should be talking about gay history. And I said, nobody's teaching third graders that.
Right.
And they said that in the law. But what they said in the law was, we actually looked it up. It says it should no gay studies should be taught to third graders or any other group that's considered age inappropriate. Bogus. That's a very bogus. So then all of a sudden now teachers are like, can we talk about this? Or, if Lori's in 7th grade and her gay parents want to come to her chorus concert, how are they going to talk about it now? Because this law is so bogus. And I think they've done the same thing with these abortion laws. They'd like, oh, we're just trying to protect the baby, but they really write these things so bogus that the doctors now.
The doctors won't do it. The doctors, if there is an abortion involved, even if it's a legal one by what is considered legal, they won't do it because they're terrified that if a judge is going to examine the situation, they're going to go to jail for some reason or another. So the doctors are going, sorry, I'm not going to touch you. I'm sorry, you're having this difficulty, but I'm not going to touch you because, I could go to jail. Some judge might, interpret this as something that could have been a successful delivery.
And that was their point all along, to write a law that's bogus enough to where they have sort of plausible deniability. It's the same way with the laws in Georgia about cannabis, for medical cannabis, but there's no doctor in Georgia that will write a prescription for cannabis because the laws are so bogus, then say we have medical marijuana. We don't, we don't. Yeah. In the state of Florida, nobody was teaching third graders about homosexual history, but then when they add these little one-liners in there, then the legal people look at it like, well, that's what do we do? And then everybody just shies away from it. And that's what they want you to do. That's the whole thing right there.
Well, DeSantis is totally into political theater. The man is just, he's disgusting. He's going to win the next election. That's my feeling, because he is so good at looking good in the suit and his messages to the state, even his placard on his podium, freedom lives here. Screw that. The guy made so many laws that keep people down. It's unbelievable. He's not into freedom.
He's a scary one. So did you so here's the only thing we can hope for, because DeSantis is scary because he's like a charismatic Trump. Like Trump, a lot of us DeSantis is Trump, but he's in a much nicer package, which makes him more marketable than Trump. So a lot of people buy it. But the only thing we can hope for, did Trump announce he was running for the presidency today? Has that been announced? Have you said?
No, let me tell you what that's about that I found out. He is taking as long as he can to announce presidency. I may have told you guys this before, but he's going to wait as long as he can. And I'll tell you why. Right now, the Republican National Committee is paying all his legal bills.
Right.
Every one of them. The minute, though, he announces that he's running for president, they can't do it because it's against the rules. If they did it for him, they'd have to pay it for everybody else. So the man is going to take as long as he can stand it, because he hates to spend his money. And if he announces his presidency, he loses their national convention and all of the Republican National Committee. He loses all that money that they're paying for him and his legal bills.
But doesn't he then, on the other side of them, doesn't he then open himself up to all kind of fundraising that he can do?
He's doing that, and he's got a war chest that is huge.
Right.
100 million plus that he's raised for himself. So he's got the money to run, but he does not like to spend his money. In fact, any money he spends on his campaign, he will take from the national committee. He will reimburse himself, and they'll do it. What the deal is, he is the biggest fundraiser the committee has ever had.
That's the deal, isn't it? He's a big fundraiser. He's a big, people come out and they donate, and we've seen these rallies. So that they're kind of stuck with each other. They've got this sort of like, oh God, we need him, he needs us, you know, we're sort of like in this unhealthy relationship kind of thing.
It is very toxic, but he's their biggest fundraiser. People come out for him. The money comes in with their fundraising efforts. It just pours in for him. And, you know, and he is not going to cut off free funds to pay the mountain of legal bills he's got now.
Well, I don't see right now where he's made any announcements today. So that's holding true. He'll kind of keep everybody kind of dangling the carrot out there. So, well, listen, I actually have to go in about 5 minutes, but I didn't know. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case you had anything else you had on your heart and mind you needed to get off the chest or whatever.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I have to say is that the abortion issue and women's reproductive health and health care for women in general is so huge that it brought women out in droves.
Right.
And 30% of voters, that was their top issue.
Right.
And it was certainly one of mine. This has enraged me because it not only is about abortion, but women's reproductive health.
Right.
And if you have a hard time getting birth control, and yet they don't want you to have abortions, that to me is just outrageous.
Well, we've asked you to speak for all women, so we're going to speak for all gay people and say we support you guys.
We do.
We're behind you, women. You know, you're the biggest fan. I mean, gay guys are bigger fans of women than straight guys. We like you. I mean, you know, we dress up like you. You know, we don't actually. Do we? Do we? No. Okay. No, never. Well, yeah, never. We never ever do that. Do we? No.
I can't even understand anybody not supporting gays either. I don't get that at all. Never have, and I support the gay community as well. I think
we've never done anything to hurt anybody.
No. And you know what? If and when that comes up and they start targeting you guys, I'll be out there. I'll be out there pulling for you as well. And I'll be sending candidates money. And just like I did on the abortion issue, I'll be sending the candidates who are defending you, I'll be sending them money.
Yeah, me too.
So it's just the way it is.
Because the gay community's had its factions too, and we're still trying to deal with. I mean, I like trans and all these. These are still complicated issues. We're trying to work out among ourselves. But this issue about women's rights kind of codified the gay community a lot. From what if we could speak for all gays, or whatever, but we can't, of course. But we are kind of supportive of that.
Well, you know what? I think the underdog communities need to, because we are the ones who end up short end of the stick.
Right.
There's no support. There's very little support for us. And,
well, it looks like you guys kind of showed it in the latest election. I think you kind of showed that you got the woman power, girl power, kind of girl power kind of came out and at least, I mean, like you said, it's funny because they didn't really, I mean, they lost the House, it looks like, but not just barely, but they kept the Senate, pretty sturdily, in this modern day and age and all that. So I get
amazing, just amazing. And now what we're going to have, the onslaught's going to be, because we didn't keep the House, even though it's by not much that we lost it, they're going to start getting on top of Hunter Biden. I don't know what and President Biden. So they're not going to do anything constructive. It's all going to be about all this stuff that they've got bees in their bonnets about, and
Right.
it's going to be
So yeah,
nothing.
they're going to spend all this time investigating Biden. But the good news is in the Senate can continue to appoint federal judges that Biden, because that's what happened under, I think under Obama, they wouldn't take any of his judges in the Supreme Court
Oh, yeah.
judges. And so when Trump got elected, they just started ramrodding all these crazy conservative judges,
I know.
starting to
Right.
see the problems with that. But now at least that's not going to happen. The Senate can continue to get Biden's judges. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, something happens to Clarence Thomas? I don't want to say I want anything to happen to him. Do I want to say that? No, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But if dead, you know, at least.
Oh my God, his wife. Do you ever watch what she's up to? She's horrible.
I can't watch her.
She wanted the attack on the Capitol.
She's like a cartoon character to me. I think like somebody drew a picture and punched it to life, and she's that person. I'm like, how does people really exist? And how does she married to one of the most powerful men in the country, who's kind of like, you know, I don't know.
Oh, and
I hope you're not watching this, Clarence, but I do think you're a little, you know.
Clarence is.
He's not watching.
I have no respect for him, and his wife Ginny is just awful. She's awful.
Well, did you have any other? I know, like I said, I'm kind of running out of time, and I'm sorry about.
You've got to run. So.
Did you have any big Thanksgiving plans? Are you traveling anywhere?
No, not this Thanksgiving. And Mark is traveling, so and that's fine. I don't mind. We have decided though we are going to plan a trip to Ireland.
Cool. Nice.
Love to see Ireland, but it's not going to be anytime really soon. But we do have that in the works. We're going to plan that, and both of us would love to. I've actually been there before, but I don't remember it really well. And I'd love to see it in a way that I can actually experience it more. So. Yeah.
Much lesser scale. I went to Fort Lauderdale a few weeks ago. I actually flew again. I've flown twice this year, and I've been like kind of easing back into it and see what it's like. And it's not that bad. You know, I thought it was going to be horrible. I mean, the lines are long, but if you do like they say and get there a couple hours before, you'll be fine. You know, and don't have any issues. So I feel like and that's why I wanted, because I know you like to travel a lot. So I figured you guys might be starting to kind of gear up for it.
We used to, and we'll get back into it. We're gonna get our biovariant or bivariant shots. We're gonna get those, and we've had all of the regular ones, you know, for that thing that's going. Listen to me, COVID, and then we're going to go ahead and get the bivariant, and we'll be done then with all the shots and everything. All the shots, and then we figure, okay, now we'll go ahead and do a little getting on the road and all of that. So,
if we don't talk to you before, I hope you have a good Thanksgiving.
Oh, I hope you do too. I hope you do too. We're gonna have a nice quiet one.
We're staying around. We're going to a family, and just so you know, what we do before we go to family, it's like an hour drive. We spend the whole hour talking about what we can talk about, what we can't talk about. We have this Todd and I spend the whole time rehearsing, like, if this word comes up, what's the deflection word? Well, then we'll bring up this. If they say that, we've got this whole strategy to talk to our conservative family. And it's funny. We talked to some other friends who say, I do the same thing. When I'm going to my family outings, me and my partner plan the whole thing. Like, so if they use the word student loans, we're going to talk about loans, something else. We're going to go to something totally different or whatever. Yeah, loan sharks. Yeah, those loan sharks are terrible, man. Yeah, we got these whole deflection points set up. We've got this whole thing. So we're gonna be going seeing family for Thanksgiving and rehearsing what we can and can't talk about.
Yeah, and I totally understand that because I have the same kind of thing going on.
Right. It's crazy. Yeah. Well, hope you have a good Thanksgiving then, and we probably need to roll if you don't have anything else.
Yeah, great to talk to you both.
It's always been a pleasure.
Good talking to you.
I love that green sweater.
I love the sweater. Looks great. Thanks for talking for all women. We enjoyed it.
Thank you on the sweater. I wasn't sure how it would go over, but I thought I really feel like wearing a sweater today.
When gay guys compliment you for your clothes, you know it's really a compliment. We know what we're talking about.
Right, that's right. You sure do.
See you later. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.